Alrighty. Well, again, welcome everyone to the fastest half hour in Jewish thought and joy. This evening, we're going to be looking at the Book of Ruth, which we read on Shavuot, which is coming up Saturday night. And obviously, in a half hour, we're not going to be looking at the entire book, but for something very specific about the Book of Ruth, which actually I was part of this week of a gathering of rabbis, a Google or a gaggle of rabbis studying together. And part of this teaching was handed over by a rabbi colleague, friend, Mordechai Leibling, who lives in Liebling, in Philadelphia. And the teaching that he gave over was about trauma. And looking at the rabble of rabbis, thank you, Jay, looking at the Book of Ruth through that lens, as you know, we can look at any sacred text through whatever lens that we wish to, and kind of pull out that which happen to be looking for, and it can serve to support us and inspire us at the same time. So welcome now, Charlottesville. Hi, Cyril.
Hi.
So I'm going to begin with a song, and I'm going to share my screen if I can figure out where the heck did that go. Where'd my screen sharing go? It disappeared. I'm good. I'm going to need it tonight, so I need to. Oh, there it is. It's at the bottom of the page now. Okay, and this is called. Welcome. All right. You see where it says "Welcome to the Mush Pit"? Mm-hmm. So don't worry about getting a pencil and paper. We'll do what I had in mind. We'll do it out loud. So one of the most famous pictures that we get from the Book of Ruth, of course, is the moment when Naomi is begging Ruth, not begging, he's telling basically Ruth and to turn back and go home. And Ruth answers in the English here, "Do not urge me to leave you, to turn back and not follow you." And here's where this beautiful line is. "For wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God." And the Hebrew is here. "Ki el asher telchi elech," wherever you go, I will go. "Asher telinu ali," and wherever you lodge, I will lodge. "Amech ameh," your people are my people, or will be my people. "Velohayach Elohai," and your God will be my God. And this is a melody I learned for these words some time ago, and I apologize I can't give it its proper due because I don't remember the name of the woman who taught it to me. "Entreat me not to leave you. Oh, beg me not to go. Entreat me not to leave you. Oh, beg me not to go. For whither thou goest, I shall go, and whither thou lodgest, I shall lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God shall be my God. Entreat me not to leave you. Oh, beg me not to go. Entreat me not to leave you. Oh, beg me not to go. For whither thou goest, I shall go, and whither thou lodgest, I shall lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God shall be my God." So as soon as I figure out how to get my screen back and stop the sharing, oh, I think it's down here. Oh, that's really weird. Okay, there we go. All right. We're going to look at the opening lines of the Book of Ruth. Well, let me take that away. And I wanted to give you the game plan for tonight, which has also disappeared from my screen. So give me a second. Um, hmm. Weird. I've, huh. Okay, so now I can't find. See, I have so many screens open, I have so many things open. Let me see if I, no, that's not going to do it. That seems to have disappeared. And Ruth 1 to 7. Okay. All right. I think I remember what it is in the order of things. So let's take a look at the first 7 lines of the book of Ruth. Somebody's telling me. Okay. And here they are. All righty. So what we're going to look at this as we're reading it, and I'm going to ask one of you to read it out loud. For you to make a mental note or an actual note of where you see here any trauma, any kind of trauma that appears in the beginning lines of the Book of Ruth. Okay. So would someone please read for us? And let's do this line by line. Leave a moment or two between lines. And if somebody senses that there is some trauma embedded in that line, just speak up and we're going to make a list, okay? So someone please volunteer to read. Okay, Mary, please.
In the days when the chieftains ruled, there was a famine in the land. And a man of Bethlehem, in Judah, with his wife and 2 sons, went to reside in the country of Moab.
I mean, that's trauma.
Yes, so what's the trauma, Judy?
Famine.
Absolutely.
Also relocating.
Yes, who said that?
Me.
Mary. Okay, you say that from firsthand experience as well, don't you?
Yes.
Mary just moved from close by to DC and Maryland to Delaware. So just so we have famine and dislocation in the first 2 lines. All right, next line, please. Mary, you can continue reading.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
That's
The
all right.
man's name was Elimelech. His wife's name was Naomi, and his 2 sons were named Machlon and
Chilion.
Chilion.
They're Ephrathites.
Thank you. Ephrathites of Bethlehem and Judah. They came to the country of Moab and remained there.
Okay. So interesting is to note is Naomi's name, and she's going to have a lot of tsuris in this story, right? But her name means my pleasantness, right?
Okay.
Okay, and they had 2 sons, and they are escaping the famine, and they're dislocated from the land of Judah to the country, to the land of Moab, and they remained there. Okay, next, line 3.
Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left with her 2 sons.
There's some trauma there.
Alrighty, so we have the death of her husband.
And also her responsibility to provide for her 2 sons without any extended family support.
Right. So now, exactly right. So is there something we might call that? Single motherhood.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm making a note of these things. And also for the children. That's right. So from both mother and mom, and her sons, there's trauma. Okay, line 4, please.
They married Moabite women, one named Orpha and the other Ruth, and they lived there about 10 years.
Anything there? You're laughing.
I am.
Go ahead. Why?
Because I would be willing to guess that that was traumatic for Naomi, because that certainly wasn't in her plan for her children, for her boys to marry Moabite women.
So Naomi's hopes for a shidduch for her sons go astray. Right? They both intermarry. Right? And it's actually worse than that. They marry Moabite women. So what do we know about the Moabites from Torah?
We are specifically commanded not to marry.
Exactly. And what are some reasons why? Take a guess. What is the worst thing?
Idol
What
worshippers.
they what?
Idol worshippers.
They were idol worshipers. That's right. Number one, they were idol worshipers, and there's more. The origins of the Moabites are in sexual misconduct. Right? So we trace this back to the rape of Dinah, right? And they don't have a good track record as far as behaving themselves in that way. And there's a third thing, which is that they refused to feed us in our wandering, right? They made us go around their country, around their area, and these are not nice people. Don't marry them. All righty. So, okay, so now we're through line 4. We have 3 to go. Line 5.
Then those two, Machlon and
Chilion.
also died.
Oh,
So the woman was left without her 2 sons and without her husband.
okay. So mostly women on this call, excluding me and Jay. This is devastating. I mean, talk about the fact that the sons married the quote unquote wrong women. Now, her sons die. And now she has a mishpacha that is not of her making. I continue. So line 6.
She started out with her daughters-in-law to return from the country of Moab. For in the country of Moab, she had heard that the Lord had taken note of his people and given them food.
Okay, so there's a circular story going on. First they leave Judah, now they're returning to Judah. Now, I sense that there is some kind of trauma here as well. Anybody share that with me? And if yes, what is it?
Well, the fact that her sons died, either there was war or sickness, some reason.
Yeah, I never even thought about that. So yes, why we can drash on that.
Mm-hmm.
Why the sons died, was something went amiss in Moab, but they were something to return to in Judah, which I'm thinking that when you leave a place and then return, the return is not always with open arms, right? What are you going to find there? Will your friends still be alive? Notice they were there in Moab for 10 years. She doesn't know what she's going to find. So there is the trauma of expectation of what kind of welcome and who's going to be there. All righty. And then line 7.
Well, also, one more thing with that one is according to line 6, she's taking responsibility for her daughters-in-law.
Yes. Well,
in line 6.
Yes. She started out with her daughters-in-law to return from the country of Moab, right? Started out.
Right.
But we know that she is going to, if not insist, urge these 2 daughters-in-law to stay and go back to their families, which only makes sense, right? Go back to your families. Your husbands are dead, right? Right. So yes, they start out together, but she does take the side of them not coming with her. which is where, of course, the song comes in that we sing at the beginning. And line 7, accompanied by her 2 daughters-in-law, she left the place where she had been living and set out on the road back to the land of Judah. Okay. So that is the beginning of the story. So it gets, that's a lot in the first 7 lines. And I'm going to repeat the things that you all listed. First of all, there's famine. There's the trauma of relocation. There's the trauma of the death of her husband. The trauma of being left as a single mother, right? And then, of course, the trauma of her, well, the fact that her sons marry Moabite women, and then the trauma of her sons dying. Okay. I'm going to share, we're going to go now to chapter 2, where Boaz, right, Naomi's kinsman, has already taken notice of her, right, meaning Ruth, and protects her. Now, where we're headed with all of this is a model of welcoming, the stranger, a model that is different than the model of Nehemiah and Ezra when the Israelites returned from Babylonia after the exile. Because if we recall, what happens there is they kind of circle the wagons and draw the Jewish community closer and become more nativistic because they are afraid, with good reason, of the same thing happening all over again, right? Now, this is where I really wanted to find okay, I can't find it. But I asked some questions and I pointed out that what might be going on here is historical trauma, meaning that there's a whole field of study now, and there's a recent book by Rabbi Tirza Firestone, but she's not the only one, who's talking about how trauma embeds itself in us, in our collective, in our individual memories, despite our DNA, perhaps, and shows up in the second and third generation, right? Mary, you're shaking your head. And it's very possible that the writers of the Book of Ruth are acknowledging that there is that line of there was famine in the land that is reminiscent of when Avram and Sarai, Abraham, later to be Abraham and Sarah, go to Egypt, right? Because of the famine in the land. And if you remember, bad things happened to Sarah there, and to Abraham too, telling the Pharaoh that Sarah is his sister, and whether she is raped there, and whether or not Yitzchak is actually Abraham's son, is one of the problematic questions that we ask. So it's possible that that is now raising its ugly face here. There's also, and when we chant the 13 attributes, the Shlosha Esrei Midot, Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum V'Chanun, we chant the beginning of those pasukim, but we end just short of where it says, and the sins of the fathers shall be played out against the second and third generations, right? I sense that is what that's about, meaning that we carry with us the collective trauma of our parents and our grandparents and play out the exact same scenes, behaviors, and sometimes experiences, right, that they had. So with that in mind, that could be what's going on in the beginning of the book of Ruth. But we're gonna do, the writers and the story itself is going to be an about face as to how, like I mentioned, Nehemiah and Ezra treated the situation upon the trauma of Babylonian exile and the return and what happened, and what happens here in the form of Boaz and how he treats Ruth and of course Naomi. So I want to share this line here with you, where so this is where actually, it's in both places. Okay, I'm going to actually stop that share, and I'm going to share it elsewhere. Okay, and I'll read this. It says, she prostrated herself with her face to the ground and said to him, meaning said to Boaz, why are you so kind to me when I am a foreigner? That's why I had that other piece. Okay, now I'm going to come back here. I'm going to stop that share, and I'm going to show you the Hebrew for that because it's really important. Vatomer Ruth, al tivki'ivi. Oh, no, sorry, that is not the right one. I knew the minute I started it that was not right. Where is, there you go, Nachri. Okay. Beep, beep. Alrighty. Vitipol al paneha. She fell on her face. Vitishtachu arza, and she prostrated herself. You know, v'yishtach, just like in Aleinu, v'yishtachavu, right? To the ground. V'tomar elav. She said to Boaz, Madua matzati chen be'yenecha. You know, what it means is, why do I find favor in your eyes? They translated, why are you so kind to me, to single me out? V'achireni, l'achirenu, to recognize me. Va'ano, and so here's the part that I want to look at. Va'anochi nachriya, and I am a nachri. Now, a nachri, when I am a foreigner, right? Now, there is another word that we know that means, it could have said, I am something else. So what were we in the land of Egypt? What are we referred to?
Strangers.
Yes, and what's the Hebrew for that?
Yeah.
You know this, Cyril.
I know, I do.
We were gerim. We were ger, right?
Right.
We were a stranger. So she could have said, and I'm a stranger. However, this word nachri is much more powerful from Ruth's point of view and how she sees herself in terms of her past and her present. The word nachri is a negative connotation, right? As a foreigner, it implies inferiority, right? It's not just an unknown stranger like a ger, because a ger is someone who likes to hang out with the Israelites, right? There is someone, there's an expression as a ger toshav, a person, sometimes some follows the practices of the Israelites. If you have somebody who's non-Jewish who comes to shul, they're a ger. They like what we do. They want to hang out with us. They don't want to be Jewish, right? So they fall under that rubric. But a nachri is something totally different. A nachri falls completely outside of the boundaries of Israelite culture and religion. I'm going to repeat that. The nachri falls outside the boundaries of the Israelites' culture and religion, right? But she's living in the community. She's followed her mother-in-law, and yet she still describes herself in this way. I would say this is a damaged individual, right? This is the picture of Ruth, right? She has no claim to the harvest in Boaz's field, right? which is why she like falls down to the ground. She worships, literally worships the ground that he stands on, all right? Boaz has every right to reject her because of her status. So the way she introduces herself to Boaz, that is her choice. But Boaz's response to her, and he says, okay, I'm going to share this again because this is important. Boaz said in reply, I have been told of you that all you did for your mother-in-law after the death of your husband, how you left your father and mother in the land of your birth and came to a people you had not known before. He recognizes her deeds, not her identity. He sees her. He sees her. So unlike the way we are treating, right, the stranger, the foreigner, who don't share the same borders, who don't share the same, right, culture and language, etc. And then what does Boaz say? Boaz blesses her. May the Lord, you see where we are? Right here, line 12. May the Lord reward your deeds. May you have a full recompense from the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have sought refuge. Right? He blesses her. He not only accepts her, he not only embraces her, he not only protects her, but in a much different paradigm than it's living itself out in our country. He blesses her. He understands her condition, right? Continuing, she says, you are most kind, my Lord, to comfort me and to speak gently to your maidservant, though I am not so much as one of your maidservants. She's confirming everything she knows about herself. I'm a Nachri. At mealtime, Boaz said to her, come over here and partake of the meal and dip your morsel in the vinegar. She sat down beside the reaper. He handed her roasted grain and she ate her fill and had some leftovers. This is unbelievable. This is the boss. He's not only eating with his workers, he's eating with this woman, this Moabite woman. And not only that, what does it say at the end of the pasuk? And he sends her home with a doggy bag, right? She has some leftovers. So this is why this teaching struck me so right in the kishkis, and why I wanted to share it with you. I think it's a wonderful lesson for our time. It can give us hope and strength and a model to live our lives, right? And also I would say that what he's doing, he is tzedek tirdov. He's not waiting to do the right thing. He has pursued proper behavior. And Boaz is more than a mensch. So a different kind of reading of the Book of Ruth, right? So I want to wish you all a sweet and blintz-filled, whether it be dairy or not dairy, Shavuot.
You too. You too.
This Saturday night, I'm going to be blessed with, we have at least 25 people coming to my house for a wonderful evening of personal storytelling. And very excited about that, including 2 Afghani men.
Oh, wow.
Who are guests of a fellow who comes to Moshe occasionally named Mel. And hopefully we'll get to hear their story as well.
Good story.
If anyone, I'm going to leave just a minute or two. If anyone has any thoughts and comments, what we looked at tonight, I want to leave just space for that.
Interesting perspective. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So how about we'll go out with that same melody that we came in with. Of course, I can't find it, so I'll just sing it for you. Entreat me not to leave you. Oh, beg me not to go. Entreat me not to leave you. Oh, beg me not to go. For whither thou lodgest, I shall lodge, and whither thou goest, I shall go. Your people shall be my people, and your God shall be my God. Entreat me not to leave you. Oh, beg me not to go. Entreat me not to leave you. Oh, beg me not to go. For whither thou goest, I shall go, and whither thou lodgest, I shall lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God shall be my God. Bless you all, everyone. Same
Shalom, Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach,
Shabbat Shalom.
and